Welcome to another episode of Talking College Football with JJ Kitchen. Of course, I'm your host, JJ Kitchen, and it's a Sunday night, less than a week towards Pitt's bowl game against East Carolina in Annapolis, Maryland. We'll talk a little bit about that tonight. But also, too, the Miami Hurricanes had the ACC prove people right. They play a tremendous football game. The defense is what we saw here when they played Pitt. The defense is pretty damn good. To say the least. Believe it or not, Pitt actually scored more points than Texas A&M, which goes to show you what kind of football team this truly is at Miami. The ACC moves on. They go on to face the Ohio State Buckeyes, and we'll talk more about that as the show goes on. We'll also have Eric in here tonight as well. He'll join the show later on, and we'll talk more about the Pitt portal. Pitt lost a couple guys to the transfer portal. I would expect more to go in. This coming week's going to be really telling us a lot about really what's in store for the transfer portal for Pitt and potentially more guys that could go in there before the bowl game comes out. We'll talk more about that. Will be more fun to see if there are any guys that we're currently looking at in the transfer portal. Things are moved very, very quickly here as Pitt gets ready to take on ECU this Saturday. But plenty of other topics, especially with Kyle Lewis, All-American at the college level for the last 2 years with Pitt. Now off to the NFL. Desmond Reed off to the NFL. What's the bowl game going to look like? And, of course, as we get closer and closer to the game, there's just more and more questions with people opting out. Coordinators not there. Coaches not there. It really is that time of year. And when we have a conversation about should we play bowl games at the end of the season or as an exhibition as the next season begins. But before we get into it, guys, the show is sponsored by Colonial Beer, located 4986 Library Road in Bethel Park, PA, 15102. Tremendous people who, one, support the community. Bill and Alan are truly two of the best when it comes to supporting the community, but they have great customer service, and they care about you, the individuals, when you go in there. Again, they have plenty of different selections across the board. You guys have certainly seen me post about it. Tremendous people, to say the least. Go in there, support small business. And as you get ready for this week, and a lot more of the matchups in the bowl game season, because obviously it's just fun to see the bowl games regardless. The Xbox Bowl was actually a lot of fun when I actually turned that one on, so that was pretty cool in itself. But make sure you go to Colonial Beer, pick up your stuff before the games start this week. And, of course, before we get off here tonight, we'll make sure we'll say it at the end of the show as well. But, man, Merry Christmas to everybody. Really, truly hope you enjoy the holidays. Enjoy your families. Be safe with your family members, man. It's going to be a lot of fun with football here, Christmas time. Get to hang out with family, get to throw the football around. Make sure you guys stay safe and always, always have a great holiday. Next up, Thompson Law Group with Brian Thompson. Call them at 724-799-8404 or visit them at thompsonattorney.com. Again, you guys have met Brian Thompson, tremendous individual, does a lot of good work in the community, a lot of volunteer work, has a great family, comes from a great family. But the difference between Brian Thompson and the larger law firms, it's relationship-based. He cares about you, the individual, and doesn't treat you like a number. He guides you through the process from beginning to end and make sure you get the results that you need. If he doesn't have the answer, he'll guide you through the process and put you in front of somebody that has the answers to make sure you are successful in your case. Thompson Law Group with Brian Thompson. Call them today at 724-799-8404 or visit them at thompsonattorney.com. And I'll bring him onto the stage here now. Obviously, our esteemed guest, Eric, is truly one of the best. Got to hang out with Eric and Harry today before I got to watch a little bit of the Steeler game, a little bit of NFL games. And here he is. Eric, how are you, sir? I feel like I might have seen you a little bit ago.
It's like I just spoke to you, brother. How you been? How was the trip home?
That was a joyous ride home.
Absolutely. Listen, I'm going to tell you something, and I know we're going to talk a lot about college, man, but, we were having a nice, quiet afternoon, watching some football, watch some Steeler football. Then, of course, they do what they always do and make it a very stressful afternoon. And what a finish, man. What a call. The correct call, and we'll talk more about that, tomorrow on the Bird Cave, man. But, geez, that was a good game, solid win for the Steelers.
Couldn't agree more. Heck of a football game there in the NFL. And we'll certainly talk more about what Pitt has in store for itself as we go out throughout this season. But number one, Eric, wanted to talk to you about it because I think for guys who truly enjoy the game of football, not just the college football, the NFL, high school football, man, the ACC, Miami, moves on a 10-3 victory. I'll tell you what, I thought it was a damn good football game, obviously compared to, Tulane getting blown out by Ole Miss and JMU getting blown out by Oregon. And we could have a conversation about, does a group of 5 deserve to be in the playoff, or potentially do they need to have their own playoff? But man, I mean, a big shout out to, to really Miami. We saw that defense and how good they are. I think they're only getting better because now they're even healthier than what we saw before. Your initial thoughts of watching, Miami take a victory and the ACC moves on in the college football playoff?
I thought that was a fantastic football game because for a couple of reasons. I mean, even though there was obviously not a lot of scoring, the game was clean. It was hard hitting. There was some movement from each offense. It wasn't like it was just 3 and out. There wasn't penalties. There wasn't, missing wide open receivers. It wasn't sloppy. It was a very crisp game. Obviously, the defenses were the strength of both teams. Beyond impressed with both Texas A&M and Miami's defense in there. And Miami's found their offensive weapon, if you will, in their running back, number 4. His name is escaping me right now, but he was able to close that game out. He was a big, tough, physical runner. Well, is a tough, big, physical runner. And I came into this game and I picked Texas A&M because I didn't trust Beck.
Yeah,
because he normally just, I don't want to say he choked, but he would just make inopportune mistakes, throw a lot of picks. Thus, Texas A&M quarterback Reed did the exact same thing instead of Beck, and Beck played within himself. Miami relied on a running game, and I thought it was a fantastic football game. And because at any point in time, you're sitting there waiting for the big play to be made, and you're like, you know what? As soon as that play is made, like that's going to be the play of the game. We're waiting for it. We're waiting for it. And actually, it happened when that one long run from Miami running back, and then I believe the other freshman, number 13, I think, sealed it with the interception, which was a bad throw. But credit to Miami.
Couldn't agree more. And to your point, Mark Fletcher had himself a hell of a football game running the football. But, man, Reuben Bain Jr., defensive end for Miami, truly played out of his mind. I thought he just did a tremendous job. 3 sacks in the football game, 4 overall tackles for loss. I mean, the guy was just playing out of his mind. We also saw Akeem Mesidor really provide a spark there at the defensive end. Their D-line was just truly getting after the quarterback the entire day. And again, to your point, we thought that the question mark could have been around Carson Beck making those mistakes, but it really wasn't him that made that final mistake, as Reed really made the wrong decision, throws it late. You really had those conversations, and then now you look at it and you really have that dilemma where the game's immediately over. But you looked at that game overall, just numerous mistakes by Miami. Had a couple of mistakes, but Texas A&M really fell off the face of the earth with a number of those turnovers and really made the difference in that football game. So, shout out to Miami, a truly good football game. I think it was good to see a defensive football game. It was pretty good. Reminded me of the Indiana and Ohio State, Big Ten championship game. Another defensive game. That's going to be crazy. Miami now goes on to face the Ohio State Buckeyes. There's some history there, obviously, with the national championship game back in the early 2000s when, they thought the game was over. Miami thought they won the game. There's a flag call. They all have to clear the field. They go back out there, and Ohio State wins the national championship. So certainly some good stuff going on there when it comes to some hatred there between those two fan bases. So that'll be fun to watch. Got to get to one of the super chats here. Pitman Zach 9471. So we've seen Kyle Lewis and Desmond Reed announce they're in for the 2026 NFL draft. Biggest question is Rasheem Biles. Hearing anything in the rumor mill in regards to him staying or going? Again, we did see a number of guys hit the transfer portal. I think when you look at those guys, I was kind of, wasn't shocked to see Kyle Lewis go to the NFL. That was just a matter of time. We talked about that here on the show. We expected that to happen. Didn't expect him to play in this bowl game as he gets ready for the NFL. Desmond Reed just ran out of enough eligibility. Didn't expect him to play in this football game either. When it comes to the Rasheem Biles dilemma, I have been told through sources that there is a high probability that he is going to hit the transfer portal. I mean, it'll come down to whether he really wants to be here or not. Pitt has certainly made a great offer to him. I think that there's other relationships out there that are close to him for that final season. I don't think he'll go to the NFL. I think the draft grades really came back and didn't look good in his favor just because of the injuries this year. Yeah. If he didn't get injured this year, I would have expected Rasheed Biles to go to the NFL as well. I just think right now, when you look at the potential issues out there, I know there's there's really two Big Ten teams that are involved in the races for Rasheed Biles. One of them being in the college football playoff right now. So it's going to be something to pay attention to. Other guys on the roster have certainly been trying to get poached at this point. There have been other teams. Pitt's done a really good job. I mean, we talked also about this on the show. Been talking about sources that talked about how Mason Heinzel has signed his NIL deal with Pitt to go into the 2026 season. So Pitt will have their quarterback back when they make that final announcement into the public. We'll see when they do that, but it'll be interesting. But for sure, I think that's kind of where we are. I mean, there's going to be people looking to grab Rasheed Biles, guys. I think at the end of the day, Pitt's done a great job. I think when it comes to retaining players, there's only usually every year you'll have a number of guys go in the portal. Again, I was disappointed in how Pitt really handled the Jackson Brown dilemma. There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes about that. A legacy name is Dad Tony Brown, played at Pitt. Preferably, I think, was probably one of the offensive linemen that I would like to see get a lot more time just because of how the offensive line really struggled this year. But I expect Jackson Brown to go into the transfer portal as well. We've also seen our long snapper go in there. Obviously, Zion Fowler-L looking for more playing time as he has really not been able to have a role in this offense. So he'll be going to the transfer portal as well. And obviously, after the bowl game, that's when things will really open up, guys. I think we'll get really more of a dilemma in terms of being able to see who's going and who's not. So it'll be certainly interesting to see where they are. But right now, I think that right now there's probably a 50-50 shot that Rasheed Biles is headed into the portal. So we'll pay attention more close to that and see what Pitt can do. Now there's super chat here. John Waffle. JJ, the first game was incredible. The last two were complete jokes. I truly believe any of the top ACC teams would have gave Ole Miss and Oregon a fight. These 1AA teams don't belong. They're not 1AA. I mean, they're FBS teams like anybody else, like all the other conferences. But it's truly the group of five, or I guess would be the group of six at this point. Eric, when you look at those two games, and I mean, we got to watch those games. And we truly, again, I like JMU because Bobby Chesney, he's about to be headed to UCLA to take a Power 4 job. You look at Tulane, John Summerall getting ready to leave there, head over to Florida, take a Power 4 job. Do you agree with these group of five or group of six teams being in the playoff right now, or do you think maybe just to make it more competitive for them, should they be in their own playoff potentially?
Yeah, I think they should be in their own playoff. I agree with John Waffle here that they don't belong. And let me preference this. This has nothing to do with the schools themselves, right? This has nothing to do. I don't hate any of these schools. I don't, when I say they don't belong, it's just they're not competing at the same level as the Power 4 with resources, facilities. Again, they're still, and you know what? They're going to get a couple players here and there, especially ones that will transfer out that are not getting playing time. So their rosters, I believe, are better than ever, if you comparatively speak, from even a few years ago, because of the transfer portal. But this isn't college basketball where, the Cinderellas can make a run.
Exactly.
This isn't a game where, especially in a bowl game, listen, 99% of the time, these small schools are going to get boat raced, as we saw. People hang on hats on. Remember, JJ and others in the chat, when Boise State first came on the map when they beat Oklahoma in that bowl game with the old hook and ladder, then the Statue of Liberty play, the guy proposed to his girlfriend, all that kind of stuff. That was a great game. Yeah, it was a great game. And those will happen once in a while. Also, those are also at neutral sites. There is no way in hell that a team like JMU, who is a really good football team, is going to go into Oregon and be able to play. And honestly, I think Oregon let off the gas a little bit. You know what I mean? And going forward, I think the two things that happened that, you definitely had the solidification. Yeah. You had the solidification of the ACC being able to play with the big boys in the SEC and things like that with what Miami did. And second, there is the solidification of these smaller schools cannot get there. And I do think next year you're going to see another change in the playoff format, which you should. This is the second year of this 12-team format. You're gathering data, and I do believe that you're not going to ever see 2 in there again. You may still see 1, but they really don't belong. And I also think this is also another knock in the ACC's archaic tie-breaking systems, because Miami should have been the ACC champion to begin with.
I agree. Even with the crazy tiebreakers, when you look at the ACC right now, I think there's another problem coming to fruition here as it goes forward, and that's really you really have 12 teams playing 9 conference games next year compared to 5 teams not playing 9 games or playing 8 conference games, which could potentially even open up another bag of worms, because depending upon who's up at the top and who's not, and depending upon how many games they played and who hasn't, the ACC really needs to get that figured out. It's been a horrible job, and I've said it before. Commissioner Jim Phillips should not have a job as the ACC commissioner anymore. I think he's done a horrible job. I think he's been lackluster. I think he's been last to the table. I think he doesn't know how to be any type of way when it comes to being creative, revenue streams, creating more eyeballs for the ACC. The ACC needs to move on from Commissioner Jim Phillips, and again, appreciate the hard work that he has put in, but he should not be leading the commission. Should not be leading the ACC as a commissioner. So
I agree.
That'll be interesting. Some other comments here in the chat. Again, thank you guys as always for the super chats. John Waffle, thank you for the super chat, and of course, Pitman Zach, thank you for the super chat. You're going to get your question up on the screen here tonight. Make sure you use the super chat button down below. And again, if you have not done so, down below, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We're growing. We're almost at 2,000 subscribers here. Make sure you hit those down below. And of course, as always, don't be a hoe. Share the show. That's the feed here. Let's go into the live stream here. Lou couldn't agree more. Jim Phillips is horrible. Get him out now. I couldn't agree more with that. A lot more names here. I know we're seeing a lot of stuff in here. There was one other one. Speedy Tortoise, have you heard Pitt being in contact with any higher profile portal guys? The running back from NC State, edge from PSU. I mean, the edge rusher we talked about from PSU, guys, he's already going to Ohio State. I mean, I've talked to a number of different agents and sources. He's going to Ohio State. That was pretty much premeditated. The guys going in the portal right now, they already know where they're going. I think at this point, Pitt's job and what we've talked about here since the portal opens up January 3rd, and then opens up for 2 weeks. In my honest opinion, Pitt's going to get through the bowl game, and then we'll really have more. I've had some people reach out to me from players Pitt has contacted. Pitt has already been engaged in the transfer portal for, I won't tell you the names, but because they're going to come out here eventually. But then we'll certainly talk about it. But number 1, defensive end. Number 2, D tackle. But of course, number 3, the large one, and that is the offensive line crew. I think there's some things that we need to take a look at from top to bottom that you look at in terms of what the offensive line crew will look like next year. I've been adamant on this show and really in public as well that, if Pitt wants to get better at the offensive line position, people can blame the offensive line players as all they want. Pitt needs a new offensive line coach. And I think, appreciate Coach Darvo and Eric. We've talked about this before on the show. You don't want to see that kind of change, obviously, with people having jobs and whatnot. I think that really you need to look at and say, after 2 years, 2 years of this, you really need to say, okay, it's not really working. Guys are not being developed. I think we've seen some guys regress. In your opinion, Eric, don't you think more than likely we should try to give someone else a voice in that room, and especially, too, when it comes to the portion of being able to recruit that room as well, just a new offensive line coach?
I believe so, because you take a look at the games versus the big boys, and again, the ACC is full of big boys, but I'm talking about Notre Dame, Miami, and Georgia Tech. They play pretty well and such, but where does Pitt struggle? They struggled in some of these short yardage plays. They struggled in some occasional pass protection, especially up the middle, to give Mason some time. They're good enough to beat, and they should be good enough to beat some of the the ACC up to the mid-tier teams in the ACC. But if they want to truly make a push to the upper echelon of the ACC and into college football, you got to win up front. You're starting to see, even in the NFL, the up front be more and more of a focus point. How many teams in the NFL, if anybody out there has known it, JJ, we were talking about today, watching the games, but how many of you guys have seen, and as you see 6 offensive linemen coming in, there's a time and place that you want to play bully ball, or you want to be able to give your quarterback that protection to be able to scan the field. And Pitt struggled with that. I'm learning from you and Harry about some of these players with that Pitt has. They got some players, but there's some schematic things and some just mindset things that just seem to keep rearing their ugly head with Pitt, and when it really shouldn't. And I believe when that consistently happens, that's a coaching thing, that's a mindset thing. And there could be even some small things. We were talking about a few small schematic things as well that you've heard and that you've seen with the Pitt offensive linemen. And I do believe that they need to make a change for the sense of being able to adapt and play through some of these situational things throughout the year.
I agree. And you see those issues from the beginning of the season to the end. That's also a concern for me as well, that you want to see Pitt get better as the games go on. But when you saw games like Notre Dame, you saw games like Miami, where really the defense played extremely well. But when you're on the field as much as they are because of 3 and outs or not being able to move the football and not being able to score, your tendency is going to break down.
Yep.
I think we talked about here before, Pitt only gave up 21 points on defense to Notre Dame. I mean, again, I think Notre Dame's a top team really in the country, not top 12, but enough to get you out there and say, okay, hey, they're a good football team and they're really special up front. Pitt really struggled with that. I think that was a problem with them. Get another super chat here from Coffee 8087. How are we feeling about the offensive line? I have not seen any news about it. As always, love the show. Coffee, thank you as always. Really, truly appreciate your support. And before we get into it, too, onto this question, Harry, there are a couple comments down below here. What are we drinking tonight? And that was a good question. Eric, what are you sipping on here tonight? Because I didn't even get to grab one. I had a Happy Dad around here somewhere.
Yeah, you know what? I was going to grab some brews. And the one things that we did not get a chance to do when you got here is I got some of those. I got something called Frosty the IPA, which I have not tried yet. I'm gonna do a separate review and I'll post it on the Bird Cave YouTube. So if you guys want to see it, I want something for a little less hoppy, a little less beer. I found these in my fridge. Some hop tea spiked iced tea. These are actually pretty damn good. It's somewhat refreshing. So I'm sipping on those today. I actually cracked 2 of these and I got them in my little glass here. So sipping on some hoop tea spiked iced tea.
Good stuff right there. So appreciate that and appreciate that question in there. But Coffee, to your point here about the offensive line, we're going to see what this offensive line looks like really the next 4 weeks. After this bowl game is played, you're going to see more names go in the portal. You're going to see more names of when, Pitt, who's Pitt's going to attack in the portal. Again, with the portal not opening up, I've heard plenty of names that Pitt has contacted. No one can sign anywhere till that January 2nd, January 3rd mark when the portal opens up. But again, I think Pitt's job right now is to get through the bowl game, win the bowl game, end the year with 9 wins, and then be focused on what comes forward. But the offensive line crew, when you look at them right now, I would think that we're going to probably see the offensive line crew that we've seen really towards the end of the season. At left tackle, I would expect Jeff Percy to be back there, Kendall Stanley at left guard, Lennon Cooper at center, BJ Williams at right guard, and then Ryan Bayer at right tackle. Also, too, in the bowl game, this will be the first year in how many years, Pitt's going to actually have their starting quarterback. I talked about it last year where you looked at the Pitt game. Pitt was down to their 4th quarterback, really a walk-on quarterback at that point. So I gave them excuses about why that game went like it did. Now, should they still lost the game to Toledo? No, they should not have lost the game to Toledo. No. But when you look at the game this year, there really is no excuses for this team to not perform well. And I think that the offensive line, this is a really good opportunity for this offensive line to really get things moving towards next year. The core group pushing towards it next season. And don't get me wrong, Pitt is going to add offensive linemen that they are looking at currently right now from them, and that you have to say to yourself, hey, there's an opportunity here that we need to add in these specific areas, whether it's tackle, whether it's the interior offensive line at guard and center. Those are the question marks there. But Eric, to your point, we've talked about the offensive line play, how it needs to get better.
Yeah.
Do you agree? I mean, when you look at the offensive line, it's good to bring in more depth from the portal and create opportunities to be able to create competition. Because you want competition really at every position.
Absolutely.
But more so, is it not even better to have that competition at the offensive line?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, listen, attrition is real in the game of football, especially in the trenches. And you want to be able to have your starting five, right? And you want to have some backups. Now, it's important to have backups. It's important to have backups that can play multiple positions that add value. More so, I mean, so you're not taking up, additional scholarships, but you're also looking at this. You guys have ever heard the term swing tackle? JJ, I know you've heard of it as well. I mean, but swing tackle, what that means is it's a guy who can play both right and left tackle. Those guys are very valuable in creating depth among the offensive line at college, NFL. There are a lot of guards, not all, but there are a lot of guards that should be able to play both sides. There are also guards that can play center. Some that can't. Center might be the more unique because of the snapping and, well, you snap up and you do things with your hands. So center is a little bit more unique. What Pitt should do, and I think with JJ, you hit the nail on the head, is that you're going to get a lot of this after the bowl game. I think they should make noise and create this competition based on their scheme. There's a saying, don't fall in love with names. Fall in love with the names when it comes relative to the scheme. Pitt might end, and I'm just making something up. Pitt could bring in a guy from Toledo. We were just talking about Toledo. I'm just picking a small school or a school that's not necessarily, Ohio State's, Penn State's, Alabama's, things like that. But he might be able to come in and fit very well with what Pitt wants to do offensively. Thus, it becomes a really good portal get, if you will. But we won't know that probably until the season starts, until when camp starts. So I wouldn't get too hung up in the names that they're bringing. Again, we always love to get the big names of a former 4- or 5-star recruit. But let's just see how this offensive line, how the scheme of the offense develops, and then let's bring in the competition off of that. So, but bring in competition that I like that can play multiple positions. Then you get really, really true competition.
I agree. And Speedy Tortoise, thank you for being here as always. Also, Adam here, there's a big offensive lineman from Michigan. Yeah, they've contacted him. Again, I think to this point, I've heard from numerous sources they've contacted between 13 to 15 offensive linemen through the portal. We'll see what that looks like, but they're being very aggressive into what they're looking for. There's going to be plenty of different things too, not just even the players, but I think there's potentially a conversation. Do we hear about the potential retirement of defensive coordinator Randy Bates, and a guy that Randy Bates has done a phenomenal job as defensive coordinator at Pitt? I think this is potentially a year where you see, Randy Bates hang up the cleats and really go off into the sunset as a retirement standpoint. And then I really do believe it'll come down to that point. That coaching search would come really down to Corey Sanders or really Ryan Manilak being promoted to get into that position at the defensive coordinator position. I think both of them can do it. I would not even make an outside hire because those two guys know the Pat Narduzzi system. They're very aggressive in their play calling. They're both phenomenal football coaches when it comes to developing talent. I would not be shocked if either those two guys do get that job. Again, would not be shocked. Comment here. One thing I noticed on TV playing Miami is how Miami dwarfed Pitt. Obviously, it's every team's dream for size and skill, but would love to get bigger up front on both sides. I agree. And we've talked about this too, and I think it's a great point that you bring up there as well, Speedy Tortoise. When you look back at the early portions of the Narduzzi tenure at Pitt, and even his tenure at, let's say, for instance, Michigan State, look at the type of guys that he had at defensive end. We had early on as well. You look at, for instance, prime example, you saw Patrick Jones and you had Rashad Weaver, two guys at defensive end who were all Americans at 6'5". I mean, guys that were absolutely studs at the DN position. Then you had guys like Tyreek Jarrett who were 6'3", 6'4", with 300 pounds in the middle. And then you saw that display of, you had Jalen Twyman who was 6'3", but had great size and great speed being in the middle there. On the offensive side of football, when Narduzzi first started, you had guys like Dorian Johnson, who was a 5-star recruit. You had Adam Bisnawadi out of Fox Chapel, who was a tremendous 4-star recruit. Then you had Brian O'Neill come in, who was a tight end, gets moved to offensive tackle, which just crushes his career into it and just explodes to the point where now he's an all-pro and a multi-year Pro Bowler in the National Football League for the Minnesota Vikings. They've done a good job of that, and I think that's kind of where they need to go to. Now, the question is when you look at the offensive line when it comes to size, I think it's more important, though, that they need to bring back size. And that's a Cade Bell question. And Cade Bell has talked about wanting the more agile offensive lineman to be able to do the pin pull scheme that he wants to run, being able to really crack down on defensive ends with wide receivers and really pull these offensive guards and get them out into space, really get the guys moving from side to side. I think it's really important to see what does that look like. So,
yep.
I think it'll be certainly interesting. But to your point, I mean, Eric, what do you think? I mean, I think that, you'd like to have more size. I mean, I think that's really important at this level. And I think Cade Bell is finally starting to see that.
Well, that's who has to see it, because what you described, JJ, is what Cade Bell's system warrants in offensive linemen, is that quick, agile nimbleness, if you will, in the offensive line. But what happens when you want that as a primary characteristic of the players you recruit, you're going to lose a little bit of size. So
exactly,
it's up to Cade Bell, an offensive line coach, and Narduzzi to find a happy medium. I think if Cade Bell wants to take the next step, in my opinion, as an offensive coordinator, because he does have his passing game concepts, I'm very impressed with. But his run game concepts, and some of it could be, like I said, the offensive line coaching. We've had many conversations about that throughout the year. You may have to give up a few things, a few plays, and a few designs in order to obtain bigger, stronger offensive linemen. So if you take away, these bubble screens that cause the guards to pull out and go 20 yards downfield on screens or things of that nature, to now inherit more of a power scheme. So whenever you're in third and short, you're inside the 5-yard line, 7-yard line, you have these big guys that can push the pocket or push the line of scrimmage, and get into the end zone, provide that protection for Mason. So there's going to be a little bit of give and take from a schematic perspective, because you can't get size and strength and agile across all 5. If you do, you're going to have a bunch of unicorns, and then you're going to have a bunch of NFL line the whole time. I mean, it's just not realistic to say you're going to get that throughout all 5. So I think there's going to be some give and take schematically for that size to be brought into Pitt. And I'm with you guys. I surely hope that is the case, because if they truly want to beat and get into the playoffs and play some of these bigger teams, they're going to need that size.
I agree. And to their point, we do have to be honest. I mean, look at Kalijah Kancey, a guy that was 6'1", that was a tremendous football player. Now, going to be an all-pro in the NFL with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. With the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You look at a guy like Servassier Dennis, who was 6'1", 6'2" at the linebacker position, and he's playing now as a starter with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I mean, you look at the number of defensive tackles that they've had. Jalen Twyman, you've seen them. Now you see Sean Fitzsimmons, a guy that's really in that 6'1", 6'2" range. Who's a really good football player, built. I mean, that's what you kind of want at the defensive tackle position. But again, you have Francis Breu that's there as well. I mean, that's a guy that's certainly going to be trying to be contacted by numerous people that we're looking to honestly hold on to, and a guy that can be really, really good for years to come in this system because of how aggressive we are. But when you look at the linebacker room, we talked about it with obviously Kyle Lewis going to the NFL. Rasheem Biles could potentially be on the way out into another program. We'll monitor that. But also, people really need to come to, the conclusion that the linebacker room is pretty stacked. I mean, I'm not going to lie. It has got a lot of people there that you have to say, okay, hey, they're doing a pretty damn good job of recruiting linebackers here. I'm actually going to pull up some of the names here. You look at the linebacker room right now. Braden Lovelace is coming back next year. You also, too, have Jaden Bonsu will be healthy. The Ohio State 4-star transfer, he'll be healthy. He'll be back next year. Cam Lindsey, another guy. It's your third guy that'll be back next year, a redshirt freshman, 4-star recruit out of Aliquippa. He'll be back again next year. You also have Jeremiah Marcelin, your fourth guy that you look at right now and say, damn, all right, so now you have 4 guys right there. He'll be back healthy. A 6'3", 230-pound linebacker can play inside and outside. The same thing with Cam Lindsey. Don't forget about David Bruton. He got a lot of good time here this year, who's done a really good job of getting more and more time as we saw numerous injuries this year. He's a guy to really watch out for. And last but not least, the fifth or sixth guy here, Emmanuel Taylor. I mean, he was a true freshman this year. I thought he almost had the opportunity to come in here and play early. Again, a 6'2", 220-pound linebacker, even as a true freshman. And we saw in this class as well. Marcus Jennings out of Michigan. The dude has been, I think he's going to play as a true freshman because the guy's already built like a college football linebacker, certainly has the football IQ coming out of Cass Tech, which is a tremendous high school when you look at talent. Anytime you get a football player out of Detroit at Cass Tech, you're going to be very successful, to say the least. So I'm happy about that. The same thing goes for the DB room. Look at the DB room overall. Shawn Lee coming back like what we saw this year. Good to bring him back. You have Shadarian Harrison back there again, so you really have your two starters right there that are on their way back. Yeah. Zion Ferguson, the 4-star defensive back that transferred in from North Carolina, he's back again. Same thing with Rashawn Murray. So you got a lot of guys coming back into this system. So, guys, there are going to be people that transfer. There's guys that have to transfer. If they're not on the 2 deep, it's a good thing to have them transfer because, one, they can find more time. Looking at some of the comments here. Seeing here, Pat Narduzzi and his defensive staff knows how to recruit defense. I trust that he will fill slots. And I agree. We've talked about this, Eric, and I think that, you've seen it as well. We've talked about this numerous times when you look at this Pitt football roster, that there are guys that come in here and play at a high level that people had questions about. One of those guys that we talked about this year over and over and over again is UC Davis transfer, Marquez Baines. The kid, Kavir Marquez Baines, is just, played lights out. The kid comes in here. People said, well, he's a 5'11", 5'10", safety. Is he going to be able to play at this level? Numerous interceptions he had this year, numerous tackles. You've actually broken him down on tape. Talk about that. Clearly Pat Narduzzi and the staff can certainly recruit the defensive side of the ball. Yeah, and I think he is a great example, of a name that fits the scheme. He's very instinctive, so he makes up for his lack of size, if you will. And he's a ball hawk. He reads defenses very well, aka instinctive. He's not afraid to put his nose in there and make hits, tackles, things of that nature. And I think he was a great fit for Pitt. Obviously he was more of a sub package guy, if you will. Can he be a starter? We'll see. But I believe for how instinctive he is, tells me he's also very smart, football smart. So he should pick up the defense from a starter perspective. I like him at strong safety. Free safety might need to be a little bit bigger, maybe a little more rangier. But however, when you're playing like that and you're very instinctive, I trust him covering tight ends more. I trust him picking up backs, picking up mesh concepts where he knows where to hand guys off and things of that nature. So I like him a lot. I think he's a very good player. I think you're right. I think Pitt's secondary is in very, very good shape going into next year. And I believe whether it's through recruiting, I know they got that Georgia safety through recruiting, and through a couple other portal pickups should look to supplement depth. But I believe they should have their top 6 or 7 DBs, if you will, already on this roster for next year. I agree. And Speedy Tortoise here, to your knowledge, and obviously things can change, but as of now, Lee is for sure coming back. Speedy, from what I've been told actually this morning, as of today, we expect him to be back. And again, that's a huge one. A true freshman All-American is going to be back at the cornerback position, who would have a massive impact and will be a day one starter going into next season. Shawn Lee, can we just talk about how well a true freshman, walked in here and how well he played as a true freshman. The kid won, again, mom and dad, both major athletes. His dad played at Penn State, tremendous football player. Again, this kid comes in here and just learns the scheme, puts his head down, goes to work. And I've said it numerous times before. He's a great pick guy. He has just put the hard work down, and we talked about it through numerous games here this year when we go through Eric's breakdowns. This kid, his form and how well he plays, even at being at 5'10", the kid's physically tough. Would you not agree with that, Eric? I mean, just from looking at this kid from a standard of a true freshman, the kid played like he was like a redshirt sophomore, redshirt junior. I mean, from what we saw.
Yeah, I mean, listen, for his size alone, you know, he belongs. But that's a huge transition from high school to major D1 college football, and the fact that he was able, just like we spoke about, excuse me, he's very instinctive as well, and you could tell probably the pedigree from his father, but he has CB1 written all over him, and I think I don't know if Bates or if he were to retire, whoever else comes in, if they deploy somebody who follows their the top receiver, but he's very instinctive, which you're seeing a pattern with these defensive backs. We talked about the linebackers too being very instinctive, how well they crashed the line of scrimmage and such. So Pitt has a lot of athleticism in the back seven as well. But yeah, Shawn Lee is very impressive, and I look forward to watching him play, and I look forward to see what they do. They let him grow, maybe, do some more things. I like to see, is he good at blitzing and such, if that's something you ask him to do. But nothing but impressed with Lee.
Couldn't agree more. And to this point, that's awesome. I heard Oklahoma was going after him hard. Believe it or not, I did not hear about Oklahoma, but I did hear about Indiana going after him very hard. Yeah. And that's a repetitive theme from the previous year where we lost a cornerback to Indiana, who I thought, hey, you get 50 grand more, hey, by all means, take that. I think Eric and I know from people who actually in the workforce, hey, that's great. Go get your 25 to 50 grand more. But at the end of the day, for what we're already paying the guys already, you'd rather be in a system that works. But hey, at the end of the day, he's playing well right now, and he's up in Indiana. He's playing the college football playoffs, so not a bad thing for him. Dwight Lindsey, looking forward to the bowl game. Of course, Dwight Lindsey, Cam Lindsey's dad. Always good to have him here on the show. Couldn't agree more. The bowl game, obviously, I will not be there. I will be on the road, traveling, going to see family for the holiday season. Certainly, it'll be a lot of fun in Annapolis, Maryland, which kind of puts us into that next conversation and the last topic of the night. Man, I watched a lot of tape on ECU, and let me tell you something. These bowl games just kill me. I mean, the amount of guys that are really in and out of the bowl game so far. And yeah, thank you, Richie. Rylan Gandy. I don't think he stinks. I think he's actually playing. I mean, he's playing well. He struggled the year he was here, but I mean, he's been in and out. He certainly has gotten playing time in Indiana, so that's not a bad thing for him. We talk about ECU. I got to watch a lot of tape on them, and man, again, it was a very explosive offense, a defense that really runs a 4-2-5 scheme, very aggressive scheme. Aldridge runs that defense, but the crazy thing is now here we are, and the landscape has changed, and I wish really all players would really stay, at their school before the transfer portal opens up. But we see it across the board. The same thing goes with coaches. East Carolina lost their offensive coordinator, John David Baker. He's going back to Ole Miss. I really think he's almost like pretty much a clone of Lane Kiffin, really in the same system. Yeah. John David Baker, very successful this past year at East Carolina, 8-4 on the year, and really allowed them to really produce a lot of points. I mean, they were pretty successful in scoring points this whole entire year. Caton Hauser was the quarterback at East Carolina. And again, you look at the offense, top 20 offense nationally, around roughly 450 yards per game, and even, averaging 5.8 yards per play, which is really good. Offense runs through Caton Hauser, obviously transferred in from Michigan State, but obviously he is back out into the portal. He's on his way out. The same thing with Yannick Smith, the wide receiver, who I think was their best wide receiver. He has also hit the portal. And also, too, they lost their tight end as well. I was looking up that as well from a number of sources. And again, it's crazy how fast this stuff really does move. Javante Connor had 23 catches for 333 yards and 3 touchdowns. Yannick Smith, 44 catches for 583 yards. And then Caton Hauser, he's also gone, who threw for 3,300 yards, 19 touchdowns, and then 6 picks over 12 games. I still think they have a number of good football players there. London Montgomery at the running back position from the tape that I watched, I think he's a pretty damn good running back. He's going to be got to watch. Anthony Smith at the wide receiver position, I think he's another guy to watch there as well. They average with a full offense, they average really about 30 points per game, which over the past couple of years, I mean, John David Baker really took them to the next level when you watch this offense. The only problem that really they had, if you really watch a lot of their games, when it got to the red zone, sometimes they had trouble finishing drives. I think it's really they had an issue there, and the running game was never really consistent. But again, we get ready for this game. ESPN Predictor has Pitt as a 58.5% favorite in this football game to win the game. East Carolina 41.5%. Again, in Annapolis, Maryland, both teams 8-4. This game will kick off at 11 a.m. on ESPN 1. 11 a.m. Again, the Go Bowling Military Bowl in Annapolis, Maryland, on the Navy, the Navy's campus, which is a beautiful campus, by the way, and obviously an easy drive, obviously for Pitt fans. I know there'll be a great contingent going to this game to really support these seniors overall. Really excited about them as well. Also, some players that you look at for ECU that could potentially, make their impact in this game with guys that I've watched or from just things that you see on the internet. Quarterback Mike Wright Jr. is an athlete. I think he could potentially fill in at the quarterback position. And he's played a number of different positions, whether, from a number of guys back there. He can really be an athlete or quarterback. We'll see if they go to him. The other quarterback that could potentially go with is Chasten Ditta, a guy that you could turn to. I think that one with Hauser opting out, it gives you so many different options that you just don't know which one they're going to go with. That's why these bowl games, the exhibition games, are just pretty crazy to look at right now. And the same thing, wide receiver Peyton Mangrum. He's a guy to really watch out for in this football game. Potentially Tyler Johnson, who's got some reps this year. He was a Penn State transfer. I think he's a guy you can watch out for in this football game. And the same thing with Mason Brown at the tight end position. And the same thing goes on the defense side of the football for ECU. Their defensive coordinator, Josh Aldridge, goes to USF with Brian Hartline. He's now the defensive coordinator down there at USF. He takes a great scheme with him, really produced at a high level for conference play. We actually have to look here. I can pull it up. East Carolina's football schedule here. Let's see here. I think when you look at this game, Eric, what are your initial thoughts? And we talked about it last week as well. Should these games be played at the end of the year? And we talked about this, and I heard this from a number of different people, which is actually a really cool topic. Should this game be played at the end of the season like it is right now and you have guys opting out? Or should the bowl games be allowed to have more sense to it, to where you move it to the beginning of the next season and use it as an exhibition, almost like a preseason game to start the year? Would you want to see one or the other, or just keep it as is right now and try to move the season back a little bit more to where there's more time to play these games? What are your thoughts on that?
I like him at the end of the year. I think because I believe the bowl game should reward the previous season played, or the season that you just played. If you sandbag them, so to say, and they kick off next year, when you brought this up a few weeks ago, my initial thought was, do bowl games replace spring games? You know what I mean? Like you have those as well. That could be something. You're seeing this a lot in the NFL where they have these inter squad scrimmages. I mean, bowl games, but again, you're looking at the traveling and things like that. I like, again, especially from us in the north up here, if you get down to one of these Floridas or Southern games, it's a reward to kind of get away, maybe have like a little vacation and things like that too. But I think they should still be played at the end of the year. And I do think you can, like we said, the spring ball gives players an opportunity in camp, for a first look-see at camp. I believe these bowl games should give players the right to have a first look-see in spring ball. And I really do believe that bowl games, especially outside, I'll say this, outside of the college football playoff. I believe bowl games should really be about, you want a game plan because you want to be competitive and take some things away. But I really think it's an opportunity to get back to do what you do.
Yeah.
Make an evaluation of the players that are in-house and do what you do schematically. If you're a running team, get back to running the ball, even though they may have a weak secondary, whoever you're playing. Look at your quarterback. Mason doesn't need to prove himself, but let's say that the example of Mason played the last 2 games and he looked pretty good, right? But let's open it up in the bowl game and see what Mason can really do. You know what I mean? Or if you have a running back you want to look at, give him some carries, things like that. So it's and the same thing on the defensive side. Do what you want to do and get back to what you are foundationally as a team and make an assessment going into next year. So that's what I would do at a bowl game. I don't think there needs to be a long of a break, especially for the non-football playoff bowl games. I think they should be able to get into it a few weeks after the regular season's over.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And to Rich brings up a good comment here. To the fans going to the game should consider parking at the visitor center in Annapolis. Easy walk to the stadium or the downtown docks. Thank you. A lot of people have asked me about where to park. I agree. And that's a cool thing about the bowl games being at the end of the year. We talk about, okay, for a lot of these teams, you get to see, okay, what do we have behind the starters? Really, how much depth do we truly have? Also, the 15 practices that you get as a football team are really for the young guys. I mean, you're looking at the first really 8 to 9 practices are for the young guys to say, okay, hey, what do we have here? They're going to have an opportunity to play in this bowl game. Let's prepare them to play in this bowl game and really get back to the fundamentals of what really had us be successful this year, and then work on things that we need to get better at. That is a good thing about having the bowl games at the end of the year. To your point, even about the spring games, I think it's going to be interesting to see the spring games. I was told through a number of people that the spring games are no longer going to be against each other. I heard that pretty soon you'll see it as an exhibition game where, here in Pittsburgh, down at Acrisure Stadium, you could have Robert Morris come over. You could have Duquesne come over. You have Youngstown State come down. You could have another Power 4 program come in, whether you have, obviously, a number of teams of Power 4 programs around us from a number of different spaces, whether it's from the Big Ten. You have Maryland come up to play in a game like that. I think it's becoming more and more likely that that's going to happen. And Colorado tried doing it this past year with Syracuse. They said there just wasn't enough time. I expect that to kind of potentially be the thing here as this year goes on. Let's see here. Good comment here. Maybe open the portal in the morning after the national championship game closes and open after spring, potentially. But I do like having only one portal session, really from January 2nd to, what is it, the 15th, January 15th. I think it's really not a bad idea overall.
I also I like that too, but I also would add a caveat that to even declare. I don't know if I take this back now. I think about how much of a impact would it have, because I hate having these kids enter the portal without finishing the year off with their team. Something needs to be done with the calendar of college football. And Dwight, I think you're onto something too. I mean, as far as, having it after the season starts, I just think overall something with the calendar needs to happen. Because again, I think JJ, we were talking about this as well. It's like really the free agency hitting during the NFL playoffs.
Yeah.
Something needs to be done.
I agree. And to your point, you look at just overall with college football, there's just so much stuff that still needs to be fixed from a number of different angles, whether it's the portal, whether it's NIL, whether it's tampering. I mean, we hear these coaches talk about it all the time. And I think that the coaches are kind of dealing with it as is right now, but you have to really make those corrections if the sport wants to thrive. And again, we saw obviously this past week as well, when you look at a number of different things that we'll talk about probably in the next show. The top 75 program valuations just came out from CNBC. Pitt landed at number 48 of the top 75 football teams in America, which is, I think, roughly 10th in the ACC out of 17, or I guess technically they put Notre Dame in there, so 18 squads. So very interesting to say the least there. Let's Let's see here. Finish it up here. But East Carolina, though, they did well during the season. I think we look at their schedule here. They actually ended, which is pretty crazy. They ended last year in the Military Bowl, like they are this year, against NC State. They beat NC State 26-21 in the bowl game. They come back and start this year against NC State, and they face NC State in Raleigh against NC State. NC State takes the victory 24-17. They go on to beat Campbell 56-3. They beat Coastal Carolina 38-0. They lose to BYU, a Power 4 opponent. And again, they did not win a game against a Power 4 opponent this year. They lose to BYU 34-13. They beat Army 28-6. They lose to Tulane 26-19. They beat Tulsa 41-27. They beat Temple 45-14. They beat Charlotte 48-22. They beat Memphis 31-27, which we saw Memphis just get absolutely destroyed by NC State. Man, I mean that was over before it started. And then East Carolina lost to UTSA 58-24, which is, I mean, obviously that's not a good loss there. And then they finally, at the end of the year, they beat Florida Atlantic 42-3. But when you look at those games, and again, I watched a number of things on tape. You just have to have questions about, okay, what does it look like when you go through, a lot of these games to where now Caden Hauser, who again was a great quarterback, there's going to be a lot of suitors for him in the transfer portal. What does that possibly look like? And I think too, what does that potentially look like with Caden Hauser not there? We don't know what quarterback they're going to go with. Yannick Smith is not playing. We looked at again. Was it Javante? If I'm not mistaken here, if I have my notes, Javante Connor. Again, the kid was phenomenal this year. 23 catches for 333 yards. He's not playing. And then you have on Pitt side, Kyle Lewis isn't playing in this football game. I don't know if Rasheem Biles is going to play in this football game. So you'll see obviously the great youth we have at the linebacker position with a number of guys. Nick Lappy going to be in that group. Braden Lovelace, Cam Lindsey, obviously leading that crew as well. That'll be a lot of fun.
But you know what? We saw them play this year already, so we should be pretty confident, with these young guys playing, because they had to play this year due to injuries, and they played very, very well.
I agree. So this game, I think when you pick a score, and Eric, to really finish up the show, this is a tough score prediction, man. I mean, like, there are guys missing on both sides. I think the good thing for Pitt for this bowl game we talked about early on, at least Mason Heinzel's playing this game. And again, this is a very young offense, so I expect the majority of guys on offense to play and really be clicking. Raphael Poppy Williams, C.J. Lee. You have Kenny Johnson in this football game, who I expect to just take off and really potentially have a great football game here. Let me see here. If you had there Blue Hicks at the wide receiver position. Again, all these guys are so young. They're all going to be playing in this football game. Same thing with Jakarian Boozy Turner. Some more guys can step up at that running back position. It's going to be a fun game to watch, I think, just for the purpose of saying, hey, there's some young guys going to get some shots. We're going to see young guys get shots in this ball game. And also I'd heard potentially that Jimmy Scott will not be in this game at defensive end. More and more stuff when you look at it. I think that this is a tough one to pick. But I think when you look at the score prediction for me, I'm going to pick Pitt as the winner, and they're going to beat ECU. I think they're going to beat ECU 35-20 in this football game. Eric, what are your thoughts on the game, and what's your score prediction?
I agree. I'll give a score prediction, obviously. I want to see Pitt score what you just said. I want to see them score 35 plus.
Yeah.
Because you have Mason in there.
Yeah.
You have a majority.
You have your starter.
Yeah, your starters, and what I said earlier, do what you do. That controlled passing game that works so well throughout the year with Mason. The running game got better and better as Boozy Turner got better and better. Maybe there's some other guys sprinkled in now with Goff being out, Reed not being there. Maybe you get a couple other guys in there to get some playing time as well. Do you have a guy that can, again, have that look-see to give him the first opportunity as Turner's backup for next year? Receivers, do your thing. Tight ends, do your thing. I want him to see them score 35 points or more. I'm going to go – yeah, it's so hard to say. I mean, the defense should play very well with the amount of players ECU's missing. I'm going to go 38-20.
38-20.
Just to prove it, I'm a bigger fan than you. I said 38 points.
You're the man for that. I knew you were going to do something there.
38-20.
But I mean, to your point, we gave Pitt a little bit of a slide last year because of how many guys Pitt was missing last year. Was missing 12 starters between both sides of the football, and on top of the quarterback, you looked at they were starting a walk-on quarterback because obviously you had a number of guys going to the portal, you had guys going to the NFL. It happens, and I think a number of guys, whether they were there or not, I think that obviously you look across the board, Pitt was just very limited at the position, along with the wide receiver position, the offensive line. It was just a numerous charade, especially on defense, the amount of guys that were missing there. But this year, they really have everybody. And they're missing Kyle Lewis for sure, potentially Jimmy Scott, potentially Rasheem Biles. But you look at the rest of it, they got everybody there. There really are no excuses this year. So it'll be certainly a fun game to watch. And again, Dwight Lindsey here, Lappy, Lindsey, and Lovelace held us down at the linebacker position for Syracuse. And again, Nick Lappy, lit people up in that football game. Nick Lappy was fun to watch. We saw him just break down and just crack people. Let's see here. Cam, obviously, it was a breakout game for Cam. Cam tore it up as usual. And then Braden Lovelace. The kid just plays middle linebacker, and it's just like the guy's so trustworthy. You let the kid do what he wants because he just knows the system so well. He's prepared to play. So really happy to see about that. Another really good one here. I want to see Moore have a couple sacks. This is also another really good thing, too. Both of these football teams have had the opportunity to really have, 3 weeks, 4 weeks off to really get healthy on the guys that are going to be there. I expect Jaden Moore to be back 100%. I know he had that turf toe at the beginning of the season, that he had in fall camp and really was out till week 10 or week 11. But now, he had something on his hand. I think he might have, did something, broken his hand or did something like that. I think that won't be a problem for him this game. Really be fun to see what he does because he'll be back next season. Very pumped up to see what this crew does, but allowing them to get healthy and then seeing, okay, what do we truly have going into 2026? And then say, hey, here is where we need to go in the portal and figure out where are these guys that we need to grab and really get on the board.
I like to see more too. And I would even try him out in a couple different scenarios because his size, I think he has that is ideal 3-4 outside linebacker size in the NFL.
Yeah.
How much athleticism does he have? I'm sure, and you would know more than I. I'd like to see maybe use him a little differently again to have a look-see of what he could do possibly for next year.
I agree. And another one here. Lovelace is an unsung hero for Pitt. I couldn't agree more. This kid out of Leechburg, he's the first Power 4 player to go to really go to a Power 4 school. The last one to do it at his school in Leechburg, his dad. His dad went to Rutgers. Just truly something really impressive and awesome. Ginger Y'all has a prediction. Boozy goes off 200 yards plus. Pitt by 30. I hope that'd be great. So I don't have to stress out during the game. Any chance Crothers plays? I know you're probably saying Crothers. I do not expect Crothers to play. I think he's out because obviously he had a knee injury. He's out till potentially maybe getting some work in for spring ball. And again, it sucked to lose him because he was starting to really turn it on as the season went on. You lost Desmond Reed in the WVU game. You lost Zachary Crothers in the WVU game. Yeah. These guys are now prepared to really get after it this coming season. So I'm excited to see Zachary Crothers play. I think he is a kid in this type of defense that we play, very aggressive, especially too when it comes to rushing the passer. It's a glorified dream for any defensive end. And he has certainly stated that himself. Let's see here. Let's see. Dwight. Well, I sit in front of the Lovelace family at home games. Love those folks. Amen. Love to see that. Love all of our Pitt football parents and appreciate everything that they do and appreciate always seeing them. And Dwight, we'll actually have a big surprise coming up 1/17/2026. Save that date. More information coming out here probably in a couple weeks, we'll drop more information on a potential get together, as I like to call it. So we'll see and watch that. John Waffle here, another super chat. What doors green do not the CNBC rankings? I'm gonna be honest with you, John. I don't know what you're saying there. Appreciate the super chat. The CNBC rankings are great. Obviously, Pitt being in the top 50 is great. That's honestly a good thing. It seems like he's got another super chat coming in here right now. What does Green do about the CNBC rankings? I mean, there's really nothing he can do. I mean, they kind of ranked us where they ranked us. The only thing you can do, continue to win ball games, continue to bring in revenue, continue to bring in more value to your football team. And that's by winning football games, high-level donors, be creating opportunities, create more revenue from corporate sponsorships, corporate collaborations. Yeah. That's how you do that kind of stuff. And he's certainly on top of it. And again, we are certainly, we're 10 spots above certain other teams that are out there. Certainly go look at the list. Eric, Harry, and I will talk more about that next week as we review the game against ECU and then go really into the offseason. We got plenty to talk about in the offseason. The transfer portal coming up, the CNBC evaluations, guys going to the portal, guys who we could potentially keep. What does it look like with Randy Bates potentially retiring? I still think he does retire. Who we looking at the tight end position, special teams coordinator position? I threw a couple names out there. Nate Byam, the former tight end of Pitt, but also the offensive coordinator and tight end coach out at Stanford. Justin Lustig up at Penn State. I'm not sure he's being retained up there. That's a guy to look out for as well. Another Wombat. Dang, I missed the stream again. Yep. If you're subscribed and you hit the notifications button, it'll be able to tell you when we go live, and it'll send you a direct message to let you know when we do. I got a moderator now in the comments section now, so they're taking care of all the comments. Usually, I just hop in there as they're going through it. So appreciate that. Let's see here. Great stuff. Dues loyalist. Yeah, I saw you had a question about. Yep. Let's see here. How about Cable Day? Yep, that was big time. Obviously, Pitt beating Penn State in basketball. I didn't even get to watch it. We were so busy as the day went on today. Do not fear the portal. I couldn't agree more. Need to make more streams than Panther Lair. Chris does a good job over there, guys. He's been doing this for such a long time, but we love what we do here, man. That's kind of the big thing for us. Let's see here. See if there's any more interesting comments in here. All right, I don't see any more in there. We've certainly got all the super chats in there, guys. Thank you so much. For tuning into another episode of Talking College Football with JJ Kitchen. Guys, it is the Christmas holidays. It is now Christmas week. It is also bowl week for the Pitt Panthers. And again, we've talked about that. We gave our score predictions. Again, cannot thank you guys enough. Eric, thank you, sir, for joining another show. Tell them where they can find you and where they can subscribe to your stuff at.
Absolutely. Follow me on Twitter or X at Birdcave, as you see there in the nameplate, as well as hop over, subscribe to the Birdcave YouTube channel. Tomorrow is going to be a very interesting conversation with GB and others. Talk about the Steelers' heart attack game today, as well as, and then obviously, JJ, we will not have a show on Thursday because there's something going on. But we'll probably pick up those Thursday shows next week. But Mondays and Thursdays, we like to get in there, talk Steelers, talk ball, and talk a bunch of other stuff. So appreciate everybody who hops over to the Birdcave and. As well as JJ just said, everybody, please, Merry Christmas to you and your family and your loved ones. Hope everybody gets to spend a lot of quality time this week with your family and loved ones. And 2026 is going to be fun, y'all. I'm telling you. It's going to be fun.
It's going to be fun. And again, if you've not done so, subscribe to the Bird Cave, a great place, especially too, with more information coming up, with especially the heart attack game you saw today. The Pittsburgh Steelers take care of business with Aaron Rodgers and Mike Tomlin. Tyler over from Facebook, hail to Pitt, and see you all who are traveling to the bowl game. Couldn't agree more, Tyler. Plenty of you are going to the bowl game. Pumped up about that as well. Again, thank you to everybody. Merry Christmas. Enjoy your holidays. We cannot thank you enough for tuning in to another episode. Eric.
Hey, real quick, I see the Pitt man, Zach. He wants to buy the printer Harry has.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Harry will be back after the holiday season. We will certainly have him back on. He's certainly busy at this portion of time. That was still, to this day, that is still one of the funniest comments. Hey, I do like the printer.
Awesome.
That was great. Again, also, too, to everybody in here, save the date, 1/17/2026. More information coming on about that, and it's your opportunity to potentially ask your questions in person. So we'll talk more about that. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, guys. Thank you.
Everybody.
Thank you, sir. Hope to see you all in Annapolis. Yes, sir. Again, cannot thank you guys enough for making the show what it is because of you guys. And again, we continually extremely go through through the roof here in terms of being able to grow the channel. And again, we love talking Pitt, but guess what? We talk a lot about college football, talking college football with JJ Kitchen. Let's see here. Got this one here. Perfect. Merry Christmas. Again, guys, thank you so much. If you have not done so, hit the like button down below. Hit the subscribe button down below. Cannot thank you guys enough. And, of course, the show is free, guys. Remember, don't be a hoe. Share the show. We'll see you guys next time. Enjoy your holiday and enjoy the Military Bowl in Annapolis, Maryland, where Pitt takes on East Carolina. Guys, we will see you potentially next Sunday. We'll see you guys next time. Hail to Pitt.